We've got breaking news out of the NBA where the Boston Celtics have suspended head coach Ime Udoka for the entire 2022-23 season. The 45-year-old Udoka was reportedly involved in a consensual relationship with a female staff member. The Celtics said the decision about Udoka's future with the organization will be made at a later date. In the meantime, assistant coach Joe Mazzulla will reportedly take over while Udoka is suspended. And for more on the matter, we say hello to CBS Sports NBA analyst Avery Johnson, who joins us via the telephone. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time here, always making time for us here on HQ. Your reaction to this news is what, as we get a year-long suspension for Ime Udoka? What does this year-long suspension accomplish in terms of the Boston Celtics? Is this to buy time? As we heard them say, they'll make a decision on his future at a later date. What does it accomplish?
Well, what it accomplishes is it sets the tone that, whatever the organization deems inappropriate, behavior, you got to follow the rules. A lot of times, when you have these type of situations, it's not just about one bad mistake. It's probably a situation where it's been a consistent pattern of behavior. So again, we all, whether you work in the media, NBA, you got to follow the rules. And especially from an HR standpoint, so in terms of the effect, I think it's going to have a significant effect, especially on a young team, where Ime Udoka came in and really changed the culture, especially defensively, with guys like Brown and Tatum. So now these guys are going to be without their coach that led them to the NBA Finals last year. So I think this is a significant setback for the Boston Celtics. And,
Coach, you make a fantastic point there. It's a setback, and it's a team that started slow a year ago and then responded to their head coach. What does this mean for the Celtics and their maturation process with that young core in tow?
Yeah, I think, one of the saving graces is, the team is still pretty much intact. It added Malcolm Brogdon to the roster. Marcus Smart is going to take on even more of a leadership role. I can see them maybe bringing in an assistant coach that's been a head coach to try to bridge the gap a little bit. But again, Ime has built up trust and loyalty with the players. They bought in, especially after sputtering out the gates last year. So again, if they sputter again out the gates, there's no telling if they're going to be able to respond and recover without his leadership. I think this gives even more life to teams like the 76ers and the Miami Heat. The Milwaukee Bucks is probably going to assume to be the favorites in the Eastern Conference. So this, his leadership, obviously it showed. He navigated them through a tough Eastern Conference playoffs, led them to the finals. They didn't play their best basketball in the finals, but he was at the helm. And without him and the guy that you look to on that sideline is not there, that's going to be a big void for this team.
Coach, we are also talking about the maturation process of a young head coach as well, not just the way that this affects this team and their future, but the way that this affects a coach who is finding his footing in that position and getting a team to respond. To sit down for a year, what does this mean for Ime Udoka's future, not morally off the court, but as a head coach on court?
Well, it's going to really be a point of reflection for him. And we'll see, because again, this is not something that happens every day in the NBA. So we don't have a lot of evidence. We don't have a lot of research where this consistently happens to coaches, and then we have a pile of data to see how they're going to respond. These are very rare situations. So a lot of unanswered questions right now on how this is going to affect him moving forward after taking off a year, or if the Celtics at some point are going to make a move similar to what the NBA did, where basically Robert Sarver was forced out after he had a year-long suspension. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see what the backlash of this is on if this is going to affect Ime Udoka moving forward.
No doubt it puts strain on the coach, it puts strains on the players, but it also, as you allude to there, puts strains on the league right now. Commissioner Silver having to deal with a lot of personal conduct issues over the last couple months here. Do you get an idea that obviously the NBA, it is a fraternity, the fraternity of players, the fraternity of coaches. Do you get a sense that's putting a greater strain on the league as a whole, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely, because the league has certain standards, especially workplace environment. You're talking about, racism and a lot of the different ills that can really take down an organization and unacceptable behavior, whether it's a coach, whether it's an owner, or even a player. So the league has some very, very high standards. Certain things are not going to be tolerated. Give them credit. You know, they've gone through thorough investigations, and I'm sure in this situation, this wasn't something that just happened overnight. There have been a thorough investigation, both with the Solver and the Udoka situation, and obviously we can see what the response was and the penalty for inappropriate and unacceptable behavior.
That is the Coach Avery Johnson, and he is always one call away. We appreciate you taking the time, Coach.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.